Hello, this is Dale Matthews. I'm sitting in front of one of the strangest Capitol buildings in America, and Mike Jones is not.
Yes. You know what? It is weird because I'm from California. I'm used to, I kind of grew up with, the Capitol Dome for California, which is really kind of cool. This one here is so weird looking. It looks like a water tower or something.
It kind of looked like they ran out of money or they decided it's bad luck to have a dome. So, I
Yeah,
looked up a little bit.
everybody's going with domes. We're going to go with a cylinder.
I,
You
so
know?
I, I looked up a little bit about this. Like, what, they run out of money or something? Well,
Yeah.
the building was burned down in 1932. Really?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so during the Depression, as one of the Works Projects Administration projects, they rebuilt this thing during the Depression, and there is a dome on top. There's people that know that. Wow, didn't you know that? No, I didn't know that. And there's a dome, but it's encased by kind of a thing that's sort of like a lantern, is the way it's described. And on
Yeah.
top of that is a statue. And really? And so there's a dome under there. It
Yeah.
just doesn't look like it. It just
Well,
looks like they ran out of funding and they just said, "Oh, screw it. We're just going to cut the top off."
yes, it looks like a 5-gallon bucket with little stripes on the side.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's the news for today. Thanks for showing up,
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little time talking about HJR 21. Well, of course, just like the song, um, we're going to talk about House Joint Resolution 21, which is also called the $2 bill. And there's still going to be people say, what? What? I don't understand. Okay, we're going to explain it. But first, we've just got to share this clip with you of Simon Hare talking about how we're going to get money in for the county from taxpayers. But I want to give you just a little bit of background on this. Not only do we bring you the latest things, for example, we just talked with the sheriff today, and we have a clip from him talking about HJR 21. And also, we're going to roll back the clock 2 years ago. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about a story that came out about Simon Hare at that time. This is about somewhere early in May of 2013. So what I can say is, in comparison to all the other sources of tax income, Simon Hare came to the conclusion that property taxes are the ideal source of funding for government, as opposed to sales taxes and in other ways. In his estimation, other kinds of taxes just can't bite hard enough. And here's a quote from him. See, with other kinds of taxes, there are no ramifications. It's harder to pin it to something, as he said, if you don't pay. That's the reason it's property taxes. This is the way he speaks. So this is exact quote. I don't know why I never made that connection before, because there's a reason it's tied to property. Because without some mechanism of a sanction, and then he kind of drifts off, with the sales tax, you don't want the goods, don't pay the taxes. That's the power, you see, that he's marveling about, because you're forced to pay or you lose your property.
Yay!
It's a sure way to secure the kind of funding that Simon Hare's county government and systems and philosophy demand. He says, well, at the end of the day, I mean, that's England. You go back to why you don't want to pay this tax, you get kicked off your property, and then
Yeah.
the state owns it.
Yeah.
And Keith Heck answers, yeah, that's why we came to America. And then the board began to laugh. So let's show you the progress that Simon Hare has made up to this point, and then you can see for yourself that he's thinking the same kind of thing. Play that clip, please, Mike.
There are a tremendous number of lots in Josephine County that are not being developed, and I don't know if it's a zoning thing, or one of the things somebody was telling me is our tax rate being as low as it is, people can afford to sit on something for a very long time, whereas when the tax rate is $2 or $3 for just the county portion, like in Jackson County, you can't. You have to have your property producing a revenue stream to at least accommodate the taxes if not make money. So it was kind of an interesting spin on things. There's a negative impact to the local economy, and having such a low tax rate allows people to just sit on it.
Now, as tempted as I am to tell him to sit on it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you sit on it, Simon. For crying out loud.
What was it that he said? He said, in other places like Jackson County or other counties, there's a $2 or $3 per thousand property tax. And what's bad about this for Josephine County is because the taxes are so low. Yeah, that means then the people don't have to they're not forced to make their property produce. Yeah, and he actually says just to pay the tax, if not making money, just to pay the tax.
So okay, let's understand this. What makes good government? Good government comes from forcing the people to engage in revenue production, and that's what makes good government. People, if your government is not forcing you enough, you should go somewhere else where they are forcing you to do what they want you to do, so that hey, you're going to be better off. You're going to be generating revenue.
So his conclusion is that what's bad about low property taxes is no one's forced to. He actually said this.
Is that we get to live in freedom.
No,
yes,
nobody's forced to make their property produce just to pay the taxes. That's what he said.
Yes. And we all want to live under that system, don't we? Let me see. Now, when we voted here just a couple of weeks ago, what is it that we were voting on? What were we voting for, the system which he appears to be advocating there, or were we voting for the system where we get to keep more of our money?
Low property taxes is bad for you, Mike. I mean, look, if you worked a little harder, then you could pay the higher property taxes, and that's real good for county government. I mean, that's real good for everybody. Really?
Yes.
Really? That's what he said.
Well, listen, do we not understand that this is the way these people feel? But every once in a while, it's nice to have a little affirmation to know, yes, they still feel that way.
Yes, here it is. Positive affirmation. That's us.
For those of you who don't believe there's a God and you need to see one, well, here's some affirmation for that theory, because here it is.
This is their God.
Yes. Wow.
Well, so tonight we have, for those who kind of follow the minutia, and who doesn't, of our show, we have 4 S's and 4 C's. That was S, Simon. We have Simon, Sheriff, Street, and Senator. Simon, Sheriff, Street, and Senator.
For those of you logging this, there'll be there'll be an email blast at the end of this to tell you, how
with the quiz,
the arrangement of things. Yes.
All right, that was Simon. Now we're going to hear the sheriff. We just talked with him today. He's talking about HJR 21. Mike, remind him of what HJR 21 is. Go ahead, Sheriff.
HJR 21 in the state legislature hasn't gone very far. The commissioners have said they're not taking a stand about the $2 bill. Are you?
No, I'm not going to. I mean, like I said, our citizenry has already decided they don't want that type of a tax. So I kind of fall back with their majority rule. And so, no, I'm not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if the money were to come, I'll take it. That's but it would be unfortunate for our local citizenry, because they've already said that they don't want it. But
well, just for the record, we did some street interviews and asked people about the $2 bill and what their opinion of it was. Many of the people that we spoke to were for the levy, and they said no way on that, because they don't want the rest of the state determining what their property tax rates are going to be. Not only that, this is not a levy. This is permanent.
Right.
And
not only that, Mike, it goes to, my understanding is it's going to go into the general fund. So it's not even dedicated and allocated for public safety like the levy had been set out. So there's potentially another downfall for you. So.
Yeah, perhaps he's without wanting to letting forth that he has an understanding of our local politicians that are in control of this stuff here.
I'm glad that he does, and he seems to have gotten the message also, which is a good thing, and he should share this with his liaison, Cheryl Walker, that the citizens have made it dang clear.
Yeah.
I know, call Jim Moore at the Courier and explain it to him. The citizens have made it very clear what they want and what they don't want.
Yeah.
They've done their cost-benefit analysis and said, yeah, I realize there's going to be some things we don't get. Okay, we're willing to accept that.
Yeah, and this is the core of the problem that we have, and that they have, in other counties around here, is that you have a bunch of politicians, a little clique of inside political people who are wringing their hands. Oh my gosh, we weren't able to get the levy passed. Oh no, this is so bad for our county. Well, it's of the people, by the people, for the people. The people said no. So now you may think that they're stupid, but they understand that if they get an extra bill, they're going to have to pay it. So they don't want to pay it, so they said no. So try and figure out how to do your job, inside of the boundaries of what they're giving you. And if you can't do it, then you're just going to have to cut back or something, because they have told you what they're willing to spend. And those people are supposed to be the people that are in charge of this whole thing. And you are supposed to be there representing their interests. Do we have that here? None of our commissioners, though they wouldn't, some of them, Simon says the same thing that the sheriff does about, I wouldn't put forth a levy effort again because clearly the people are not for it. I mean, he will say that, but he doesn't believe it. He would definitely like to have higher property taxes. So what? Name one of these guys that's our representative.
Well, and Keith Heck is floating face down in denial. I mean, this guy is still saying, even though we've all seen the tape, that he had no role at all in the last levy. Excuse me, Mr. Heck, we've seen that you did. Well, you act like you don't believe me. Well, I just won't talk anymore. First of all, that's a good start. The second is, of course we don't believe you. I even got up at one of the recent weekly business sessions. I said, why do you keep saying that you're surprised? We've seen the tape. You've seen the tape. I mean, this little camera right here, this camera up here, it's not going to lie. And you can't get away with lying about it. It's just not going to work. Well, I never did. You can't say that. I mean, you can say it all you want, but no one's going to be, you're acting like you don't believe me. No, we don't. What? No. Okay, so what does the man in the street have to say? Here's one of the people Mike was talking about. This guy's in favor of a levy, but listen to what he says about the state imposing it on us against our will.
How we strike this balance between paying for services we need, infrastructure upgrades that we need, law enforcement, et cetera, while at the same time, not spending tax dollars irresponsibly. I mean, that's what it's like to live in America. The tension between those two needs always exists. So really, the only issue you're asking about that I feel very strongly about at all is just that whole issue of the state deciding our property tax, which has always been a local decision. And I believe in most states, it's a local decision.
Yeah.
Yep. He wasn't the only one. He was the best one, said it the best of the bunch. But we ran into a number of people who were pro-levy but didn't want any part of the $2 bill. Right.
Now, that's 3 out of the 4 S's. Here's the 4th S. This is State Senator Herman Bertschiger on HJR 21?
And we could do 3 complete shows about the $2 bill.
Yeah.
Tell us what your feeling is.
We
about
never
that.
seen it. We never seen it.
It never got to you guys.
Never. It never came out of rules.
Are you hearing anything about its arrival in the future?
Haven't heard anything.
So what are the feelings of your colleagues and also some other people that are in the Senate on this subject? What are they saying?
Not a lot of conversation. Because, you know, we're dealing with thousands and thousands of bills, and you know, you can't worry about all the unknowns. You better worry about what's on your plate right in front of you right now. So it never surfaced. It never came up. It never simmered to the top. So it just seemed like it was a non-starter.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of talk about it down here in media, both here and in Jackson County.
Well, sure, because it's going to affect us if it is implemented. But I will tell you, it just didn't rise to the top this session.
Now, we heard an awful lot about this from Cuffs and from SOS and from every levy backer out there. Why, the state's going to come right in, and if we don't do it here, they're going to force it on us, and you don't want that. Mike?
Yeah, right, yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, they were beating us around about the head with that really through the whole election season. And you know, I mean, the idea, of course, I get it. I get why they used that. It's odd to me that even though it didn't come forth, that they wouldn't at least talk about it. I think that they keep these guys running with all kinds of make work, so they never, you know, I mean, nothing would probably affect the people living in Josephine County more than the $2 bill in anything that they're proposing legislatively. And so why would they not discuss that amongst each other? It's almost like you know, it didn't exist, and he's so busy with this other stuff he, you know, barely even understands what the $2 bill is.
And there's something real wrong here. And I think it has to be, just looking at the political part of this, it's got to be a function of the fact that he is a brand new senator. Because I don't believe that some of the senators that have been there for half of their lives or whatever are spending every day drowning in paperwork. At some point, Herman Bertschiger is going to need to say, do this thing that Mike suggested, push these things off to the side. It's not that it wouldn't be lovely to read through every page of that. It's not going to be possible because you can't stay ahead of the game if you're constantly trying to catch up with reading every piece of paper. That's just not going to happen. It cannot be that every senator, every House person in Salem is reading every page. Well, first of all, you know they're not reading it all. But the second thing is, at a certain point, you need to say, no, this is impossible. I'm not going to be doing that because all I'll do is have my face buried in paperwork, and I won't see the bigger picture. When we asked him what's coming up next, we asked him, I think it was yesterday, he said, well, I don't know. You have, not to be too critical of the guy, he's new. You have no idea what's coming up next. I mean, what happened to the transportation bill? Okay, we're rather busy. Aren't we all rather busy? What happened to the transportation bill? What happened to some of the other, what happened to the whole thing about adding on gas taxes? You don't think that that's coming up next? Of course that's coming up next. You have no idea? If you've got no idea of what's coming up next, sorry, you're not doing your job properly. You need to have some forward thinking. You can't always be following whatever it is they throw at you. That's not good governance.
Yeah.
He's new, so, you know, we're not going to be too tough on him. But when I said to him, you know, when are you going back into session? And he said, well, I'm going to be real busy during this break. Okay, how long is the break? Till February. Till February?
Yes. Wow, that's a great gig, man. But
well, there's time to read up on what's coming up next.
Yes, I suppose. And there's, you know, the guy probably runs a business outside of that too. You know, there's, I think, many people that you know, serve in the similar capacity that have businesses outside. I mean, Carl Wilson, is, I'm sure, knee deep in everything that's going on with K-Joe when he's not up there in Salem. So.
Well, they got the whole subsidized university education, well, at least community college education, subsidized housing. They're going to be talking about that. There's all kinds of things that are going to be subsidized.
Where are they getting all that money? That's what I want to know. I mean, we just got, what did we throw, 300 mil down the toilet with Cover Oregon and a bunch of these other things. Where is it that people are doing so well in this state that we can now afford to pay for people's college for nothing? What is going on here?
Yeah, it's a real good question, buddy. And this guy is one of the people that was elected from this area to try to put a rein on that. And unfortunately, at this moment, he doesn't know what's coming up next. Okay, so you've served your first term, and it's time to get with the program and find out what's going to happen next and be ready for it, Mike.
Yeah, and it is a little tough because, I mean, I could imagine being a Republican in California right now. California has a super majority in all of, I mean, they're just, it's a rubber stamp parade. That's all they're doing down there is rubber stamping Democrat stuff through their legislature down there because the Republicans don't have any power. It's a very, very similar situation up here. It'd be very difficult to go up there and know that you're going to put in all this time, digesting all of the legislation and, go in there and get hammered, and none of your opinion is going to count to a hill of beans. You certainly throw it into the mix, but it isn't going to make much difference because they have such a majority.
So he'd end up, if he reads all these documents,
the Democrats do that.
He would end up being one of the best educated people whose vote never counts.
Yes, right, exactly.
So he said, when we asked him, well, what happened to HJR 21? Just before I turn this corner, because we finished the first 4 S's, now we're going to go into the 4 C's here. Just before that, Mike, you want to do a very brief summary of what HJR 21 is? $2 bill.
Yeah, HJR 21, House Joint. Yes, thank you. The House Joint Resolution 21, and essentially what it is it raises. It's a constitutional, an Oregon state constitutional amendment, and what it would do is make it so that no county could charge less than a $2 minimum per thousand of assessed value tax rate anywhere in the state. That's the starting point, is $2, and we're 58 cents. We're quite a bit below that, and
so there's 3 counties specifically at which this is aimed, and that would be Coos, Curry, and Josephine.
Right.
Because we're the lowest.
Yep, lucky us.
So now that the state senator has said we never seen it. What did Channel 10 have to say? We've shown you this before, but here's Channel 10's headline of what was happening with HJR 21. Here it is.
Oregon voters passed raise for property tax.
They did? Mike, they did on June 29th. Channel 10 told us all about this. If you follow Channel 10 you'll never go wrong. Okay, so Oregon voter, wrong thing. Back up. Nope, back. Hogan's Heroes.
Was a non-starter.
Yeah, I had it up there for a long time. I even paused it there for a long time. Okay, there you go.
All right, so June 29, Channel 10 told us this. And so what happened, because this is part of what we do, I called the news director at Channel 10, and I said, why does this say that? Whoops. So they fixed it. And they fixed it to saying, We don't really know what's happening in the news. Thank you very much for watching our TV channel.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, that's the first of the C's. Now, here's what Jim Moore of the Daily Courier wrote and pause that, thank you. And this is what Jim Moore wrote. A potentially historic bill, oh really, in the Oregon House would dramatically improve the financial landscape for Josephine County.
Really?
Yeah, and this
How
is
is taking more money out of our pockets to give to the county government going to help improve the financial for who?
Dramatically. And
Yes.
remember, this is not Kevin Whittison, the editorial writer. This is Jim Moore, the infamous Jim Moore, who's writing it in a news article. It was the first sentence in the news article. It's potentially historic, Mike. See, our votes for the last 10 years, that's not potentially historic now. No. That's the drudgery of everyday news.
No, you know what? And you see what this is? This is advocacy of government force.
You think?
That's what this is right here. He's saying, "Oh, it'd be wonderful. And
it would be dramatically wonderful.
Improve the financial landscape for Josephine County. Sure, as a governmental entity,
it might improve the financial landscape for the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
But who says it's going
to? That's exactly what they're.
Brother.
No, it's not going to at all. No, listen. This is why people vote against this stuff. Why don't you work on some way of trying to make our economy here better instead of, this is the kind of advocacy we're having from our what do they call it, the fourth estate or whatever, the press, is that the fourth?
We're the fifth estate.
The fifth estate. Yes, I'm sorry. Who's the fourth estate? And who's occupying the other 2 or 3 estates?
Well, one of the estates is the Supreme Court, and another is Hillary Clinton all by herself, and another is what?
No, she has like 3 estates, by the way. 3 or 4.
No.
So,
okay. But
the fourth estate.
What would
she lets us stay there. Is what it is.
What would be potentially historic? And what would dramatically improve the financial landscape in reality, as opposed to Jim Moore's view of our financial landscape? What would do that, Mike?
Well,
how about the federal government being forced to live up to their contract?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, that
actually
would be
working with minors instead of making fun of them.
Yes, right. Or being just a little bit less stringent on these environmental rules, because listen, they have allowed them to run roughshod over the top of us, and we're not allowed to do anything. I think there's a happy medium somewhere.
How about the idea of promoting, actually taking Cheryl Walker out of the leadership of the financial development for the county and putting someone in there that actually wants to promote businesses besides your biggest friends, actually doing some kind of business in the area, and having a pro-business would be okay, but also, what about the idea of economic development? And I don't mean economic development of putting a plaque on a rock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean real economic development. See, this is one reason we've just got to say goodbye to her, because where's the economic development? What are the biggest economic development projects? A project which may go ahead and revert back to the city after spending millions of dollars on it, tearing down a building and not having any plans whatsoever what to do with that building. They still have no plans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they tore this down when it was wet and rainy and cold, and they still have no plans.
I'm telling you, people that think like the current crop of commissioners don't know anything about economic development, and I'm sure that people have heard me say that before, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I'm not the only one. If I don't know what I'm talking about, Cheryl. She's been in charge of economic development for some time. Yeah, that's been a real success story here. All we do is give away money to people who, she deems the proper recipient of it, or this outfit down there in Illinois Valley, right? Yeah, that takes the money and I'm sure passes it through after they take their little middleman piece out of the deal. I just don't think government understands how to do economic development. The private sector knows how to do economic development. Government needs to get out of the way and allow that to happen. And if you're going to have a situation where you have economic development funds, in other words, they're feeding some of our own money back to us here, is give it to the private sector without discrimination, and let them take off with it here. But this idea of giving it large quantities of money to projects that they say are going to create a number of jobs that everybody knows is not true. That's just silliness. I wish we could just stop that. It's foolishness.
I'm waiting for that report that's going to tell us how many full-time family wage jobs were generated by building a couple of ramps in a state park.
Right. Yeah.
And just talking about into the future, she was super strong and pushing to give. I think it was $50,000 to the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization. But she's pointed out that they can't really hand out any of their money because they're really not prepared to do it. Why did you give them the money? Why didn't you wait, not give them the money until after they were prepared? They're still not prepared. Why do we give them the money? It's like hiring the guys, giving more time, twice as much time to the guys at the airport who were going to prepare for manor development. Why did you give them the money retroactively to January? I think that was the case. I think so. When they still haven't done anything for that and will never do anything, they can't do anything. Why did you give them the money retroactively?
Yeah, and these are the management decision. These are the actions of people who continually flog us with the notion that we are broke, we are falling off the fiscal cliff, we're hitting the wall, we're et cetera, et cetera. You've heard all the analogies. If we're broke, let's stop spending money on stupid things and ill-conceived ideas. I don't think that's too much to ask, but the problem is these people don't know what ill-conceived is, because to them ill-conceived is something entirely different.
Well, ill-conceived was the idea that you're going to create hundreds of jobs from building a couple of wheelchair ramps after the wheelchair ramps are built. Then those people were so emboldened by this that they came back and said, if we put a plaque on a rock, that's going to create 90 new jobs. And they should have been laughed out of the building. And the commissioner should have said, look, don't ever come to us again. In fact, we're just going to march your people around in the desert for 40 years until all them die off. What, too biblical? Look, this is really the wrong kind of attitude.
I'm for it. This is one of the best ideas I've heard yet.
Oh, man.
Where's the desert around here? Oh, Eastern Oregon. We'll take them out there.
Or to the clear-cut areas, Okay, all right. So, is anybody listening to the perpetual winners? I mean, call us winners because we're not paying those extra taxes. Is anyone listening? Well, you would think that maybe, since we're sort of neck and neck with Curry County, that maybe Curry County, who also has very low property taxes, would kind of get the picture, because their taxpayers are saying the same thing to them. No. See, what I did is we've got the letter that Cheryl Walker sent, and it's blah, blah, about why the state legislature must not restrict the hemp business in our area. She doesn't say in there because Simon Hare and I are partners in the hemp business. She didn't bother telling them that. Why didn't she tell them that, Mike? So she sends also, in addition to getting together with Simon and sending an official county stance on this, which puts money in their pockets. This is why they're under investigation by state ethics. She also sent a separate letter to them extolling the virtues of hemp production and saying, please don't mess with it. Well, okay, feel free to do so. And it's okay in this America to have financial interests, but not when it's going to benefit you. And you don't tell them that you're now going to also commit the county to taking a stand on this that's going to line your pockets. So I was looking around for a letter about HJR 21 because we know now that Dwight Ellis, remember Dwight Ellis was the guy, the actual person who was running the recall effort against Sandy Casanelli. It was Dwight Ellis, and a former commissioner, former chair. He wanted Sandy Casanelli out and dedicated himself pretty much full time to making sure Sandy Casanelli was tossed out. Why? Because she stood for things like this. Put up this quote, and this is from the Curry County tax collector and assessor.
There you go.
And tell them what this says, Mike.
HGR 21 would assist Curry and other counties to take control of their destiny.
What? How can you take control of your destiny when you're turning it over to the state?
Well, yes, but no. Right now the citizens are in charge because the citizens, they don't have the money. So when asked, do you want to spend more money, they say no. And listen, all of these counties, there is an issue, and part of the biggest, one of my biggest pet peeves is allocated funds. Now I understand, somehow people feel like this gives more control. If you send money into a county and say you can only spend it for this, well, the problem is that they inevitably end up shorting law enforcement. Now, let's say back in the 1800s, okay, you come to this town and the county takes in some money by who knows what source they take it in from. But what do you think the priorities of spending are in the county back in that day?
Let's see your face again, okay?
Okay. So, what do you think those priorities are? I'm guessing that law enforcement is right up there at the top of the list because it is one of the obligations of the county is to protect people, give this is law enforcement service to the citizens.
Well, how'd they do that? How were they able to do that, Mike?
Well, I'll tell you how they were able to do it. They didn't have 59,000 other things that they were doing, all these little services and all these little offices full of bureaucrats pushing pencils and all kinds of stuff. All these, they didn't have a lot of the departments that they do now. Law enforcement was the big thing. That's what they took care of. Now, I would be fully for counties being able to do what they want to do with the money that comes to them, regardless of how it's earmarked.
After they pay the most important thing.
Right.
If there's anything left over after that,
right,
then okay.
Okay, yes, but see what they do, and this is intentional. I'm pretty sure it's intentional. I have to believe that because you see the same model is played out almost everywhere you go. Law enforcement gets the raw end of the stick. There's not enough earmarked funds coming in from outside that say go ahead and spend this on law enforcement. That all of these funds that come in ought to be said, you can spend as much of this as you want to on law enforcement, and whatever's left over, give it to such and such. And then of course, you're going to have a bunch of oxes that are you're goring me, and this is the problem.
I invented the internet. Oh no, that's the wrong chord.
Yes, but the bottom line is that there's plenty of money coming into this county. It just isn't going to the right place. There isn't enough control. They spend way too much money on a lot of things and short law enforcement, and they do that specifically to try and pry some more money out of your wallet. It's the whole idea. That's why they don't want to take money out of Public Works and take it over and give it to the sheriff, because any amount of doing that removes a little bit of pressure.
But I'm so confused, Mike, because they said that it was all about the top priority, yes. And it was an emergency situation. And
we talked about that today with the sheriff. Now, didn't
we? Yes, we did.
And the funny thing is all of these people You know, you'd think that they would be for any funding. Let's get the sheriff the money. The public safety situation is a dire emergency.
Let's have a parade. They had lots of parades. Let's have a parade about it. Mike, come on, let's have a
Yes,
parade,
right.
and we're going to get money for the sheriff.
But they only advocate for a certain kind of money.
That's correct.
Only a certain kind of money. The other kind of money they have no interest in at all. As a matter of fact, that would be bad. We've just decided public safety is not our priority. We care about the roads more. What if there's an
earthquake? See any parades about earthquakes and bridges. Where's the parade? SOS and cuffs? Where's the run from the earthquake event?
Where's
bowling for earthquakes? We don't have that.
Bowling for earthquakes.
We don't, do we? And if you think we're making it up, just look around. Where's the parade? Where is the parade? Where's the parade? Now, people coming up and demanding that you do this. It's an emergency. We need to do it for the sheriff. Where are these guys?
Yes. Well, okay. Think if they had, some agency, like SOS, and their whole drive was to get a property tax increase because of the underfunded assessor's office. People go, oh yeah, we need to sign on to that.
Yeah, sure.
There's no way. That's why it's the sheriff's department. That's why the sheriff's department is underfunded, because they know that right at the heart, it's always been this way throughout history.
What proof do you need? I mean, just look around. Where are these guys? We talked with the sheriff today, and we said, well, you've been going, I imagine, to, they still have SOS meetings. They still have cuffs meetings. Have they had you come and talk with them? Well, no, I don't even think the cuffs is having any meetings, he said. They're not having any meetings? Well, then the sheriff must have all the funding he needs. Well, no. Well, now wait a minute. This job is not finished. Where's the funding for the sheriff? Well, the only thing that's not happened is they didn't get their levy, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, but Dale and Mike, now get with the program. It was never about the funding. It wasn't about the levy, and it certainly was not about that 10% skimmed off the top. And the fact that nobody is now supporting money for the sheriff, it means that our priorities have shifted over to striping the roads on an emergency basis.
Yes.
What?
Yep. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, let's go back to that quote, to a pause on that video of the quote. Here is the quote yet again. Just imagine, we do have a county assessor that's a lot like this. We just haven't found any letter from her to the legislature. HDR 21 would assist Curry and other counties, get this, to take control of their own destiny. You mean you're going to have the state force a tax on us, and that takes control? No, that's giving it to the state. What they're saying, what Jim Colin, the Curry County assessor and tax collector, is saying.
Colin, yes.
Well, yeah. I'm sure he never heard that one. What the tax collector is saying, take control of their own destiny. Well, the citizens there do have control over their own destiny. So, Mr. Colin, what's the problem again?
I think the citizens of Curry County need a box of Super Colon Blow.
Oh man,
there's a dated SNL reference for
yes. And what we need is an election here, and they desperately need an election there to blow it out their ballot.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now one more. What do the commissioners have to say about this? I mean, certainly they take a stand about HJR 21. They've got the courier behind them. The courier's telling everybody what we all need to do. Here are your marching orders. Here's what Keith Heck is saying in defending you and making sure the state does not get, remember, just before you play it, they warned us, the state may come down here and then you won't like this. They're going to impose things on us. You won't like it when they do that. Well, we're going to fight against that. Why, we're with you every step of the way, populace. We don't want that kind of thing happening. So here is Keith Heck's stand.
Oh, that makes me feel better. Yeah.
What?
We're not supporting it and we're not against it. Yay.
Really? Yeah, but didn't you say that they were going to come and do this thing to us, and that was really bad, and that you would fight for ours and make sure why we need to raise our own taxes so the state doesn't do that? And now wait a minute, the state wants to do that, and now we're no longer behind you?
Yeah, yeah, right. So what part of this little statement here, what part of this sentence indicates that he is representing the citizens of Josephine County?
Brother, he is representing. He's representing the Chamber of Commerce. He's representing Jim Moore and the Daily Courier. He's representing the Rotary Club. I mean, what more do you want? He's representing that portion. He's representing all the losers of the last 10 years. He's representing Carl Wilson, buddy. Now, Carl Wilson says he's really not for this, but I mean, who are the people that are always insisting that we need to get with the program and vote their way, and they always, always, always lose? And they warned us about this thing, and now, where are they? They're not even going to back us up. No, they're not going to back us up because, you see, this whole thing about funding the sheriff, as an example, it's a bridge to nowhere, which really means it's not a bridge to yet another levy.